It's 5:30. I'd like to call this meeting of the Paducah Planning Commission to order and ask if you would to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Benberry,
Here.
Commissioner Carmen, Commissioner Griffin,
Here.
Commissioner Kaler, Commissioner Morrison, Commissioner Rhodes,
Here.
Chairman Wade.
Here. And before we begin, I'd like to introduce our new corporate counsel for the Planning Commission is Attorney Glenn Denton. Thank you. Welcome.
Look forward to working with you.
All right. Commissioner Benberry, I believe you have our minutes. Motion.
I move that the reading of the minutes from March 3rd, 2025 be waived and the minutes of said meeting as prepared by staff be approved as written.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any corrections, additions, deletions to the minutes as published? Hearing none, Mr. Summers, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Commissioner Griffin,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. All right, we have no new petitions for URCDA, nor any new Planning Commission's continued petitions. We do have a petition in front of us regarding 5345 US Highway 60 West. Mr. Summers, would you give us the background on that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a revision of a plat that was continued generally at the September 7th, 2003 meeting, and the current final plat was adopted at the July 1st, 2024 meeting. The primary difference between the current plat and the revised plat is to reduce the number of lots from 6 to 5, and the lots that front along Highway 60 are proposed to be just a little bit larger. Lot number 1 will be a new McDonald's, and they've requested that from the current property owner. And there are ingress-egress easements still in place to serve the new businesses that would also go in there. One thing that I would mention is that we do need a recorded ingress-egress easement to serve Track 2, which is on the north side of the plat. And you will notice that there's a note there about that easement that'll connect to Harris Road. So whenever that's done, which I believe will be in about a week, I'll get notified of that and a copy, and the plats will be brought to you, Mr. Chairman, for your signature. And Mr. Goins is here to also answer any questions that you all may have.
All right. Commissioner Griffin, I believe you have a motion on this.
Yes, sir. I move that this commission adopt the resolution approving the revised final subdivision of property located at 5345 and 5345 and 5435 US Highway 60 West.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. Do you all have any questions of the representative who's here, or do you have any statement that you wish to make, Mr. Goins?
There are 2, 3, and 4 remaining vacant at this time.
Yeah. To my knowledge, they all are, except for Lot 1.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Summers, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Griffin,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
Commissioner Benberry,
Aye.
Chairman Wade.
Aye. All right. Our next item is a presentation for discussion by the Planning Department.
Good evening, Commissioners. Allow me a moment here while I turn our television on to upload our program. But for those of you who may or may not know me, I think you know me, my name's Palmer Stroop. I'm a planner in our planning department. As I get this loaded here, I realize Well, I've known y'all individually. This is the first time I've really gotten to speak to y'all formally as the Planning Commission together. So I appreciate y'all's time. But tonight we will have a presentation regarding our department's South Side housing plan. We're going to talk about the large, broad strokes of this plan draft, and essentially what it's going to do for the community, but also we're going to tie this back into you all as planning commissioners in the URCDA. We'll get into presentation mode. Okay, I have one handout as well, just for y'all, I'll give you right now, and then we'll go into this. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so a bit of context. This was a presentation that we previously gave last week to our city commissioners, again introducing them to the larger concept of our Southside housing plan. We've had a lot of work going on with Southside for some time now, but we're at the point where we're consolidating all of our programming and taking this to the next level with a full revitalization plan. A bit more context when it comes to revitalization plans. The City of Paducah does have a history with it. You will be familiar with Lowertown and Fountain Avenue. But the scale of these projects are considerably smaller when it comes to the South Side. The priority from the City Commission is for the revitalization of the South Side. But the steps to that process are going to be a bit different and might take a different path than what came before. For reference here, we have pictures of Lowertown and Fountain Avenue. The Lowertown program was about 400 individual parcels. Fountain Avenue contained about 307. However, in context, the South Side has about 3,678, considerably larger than the previous two before it. When it comes to accomplishments that we've already made, progress that's been going on, we have, through our engagement process, through the Southside Steering Committee, adopted an original program area with 2 pairs of incentives that were in place back in 2022. This was a way to pilot incentives in this area for the first time. Again, these have been done without a full revitalization plan. These are 2 individual incentives, one being a home beautification microgrant. This was something that wasn't offered in the original program, such as Lowertown or Fountain Avenue, but this is a way to get applications out the door and accessible to people right away. Again, this was for smaller projects. The maximum award is about $5,000. They contain maybe windows, roofs, more individual projects. On the larger side, we had the new construction and major rehab incentive. This is the kind that you saw in Lowertown and Fountain Avenue. In this case, the maximum award was about $27,000. When it comes to progress in this original area, and again, this is ongoing as of right now today, there's been 1 new home fully completed that started as an application that was reviewed by planning, that was approved, the construction began, it was completed, and it's completely closed that process. 1 new home has been finished as of now. It's on Oscar Cross Avenue. However, 6 homes are now under contract. That's 4 for new construction and 2 for major rehabs as well using this incentive. There's 3 homes that are committed inside this current area, but at this point, we're starting to run out of our surplus property available in this original area, and we're also starting to see development outside of this area, or people that maybe have acquired vacant property and are looking to redevelop it, but perhaps still with utilizing a city incentive. However, we're limited in this area we're currently in now, and so when it comes to the full revitalization plan, the recommendation is going to be expanding this area. And we'll talk a bit more through that in this presentation. When it comes to going beyond incentives, there's a lot more the city can do, especially when it comes to the elements of a revitalization plan. Of course, expanding our area, expanding the incentives, maybe the amount totals on them, but there's a couple different strategies we can do to really revitalize an area. This can come in the form of gap funding assistance, helping, with the cost of construction versus its appraised value, a property tax moratorium, other incentives such as house plans made available. This is something also done in Lower Town and Fountain Avenue. We'd be working with a local firm to develop these plans to a more south side specific quality and criteria. And then, when it might involve you all, really utilizing URCDA when it comes to the transition of property. Again, it's also not been all of the city's work. There's a lot of ongoing development in the south side as well, such as at the Hotel Metropolitan, the old Walter Deton School, now the Dunlap, and working with the Symphony. Improvements with the Greenway Trail, possibly coming through the area, working with possibly courting Meharry Dental School in the area as well. So there's a lot of focus and attention in this area already outside of the efforts of the planning department. And so we're working to try and tie all these elements together. The first really big recommendation that's going to come out of our housing plan is, of course, expanding the program area. This is, as it's seen here, the proposed recommendation to grow from our original one here to this new highly shaded area. This would run from Kentucky Avenue all the way down to Caldwell Street, and then from the train tracks to South 3rd Street. This contains a large portion of the Walter Jeton and Upper Town areas. In total, this area contains about 1,061 parcels. Again, much larger from Fountain Avenue and Lower Town. It contains about 83 square city blocks. And one thing important to note is the vacancy rate of the area, all of the vacant parcels. And I have a map here showing this following, but the data for that is about 405 vacant properties within this one program area, which is about 38% of this 1,061 total. And again, Fountain Avenue, 307 parcels, and that program lasted for about 10 years, from 2007 to 2017. This map here is showing the vacancy rate. Developed properties are in blue, and that's residential, that's commercial, anything that's not a primary home. And then the vacant property here is what is completely empty, doesn't have anything on it. And again, that's about 38% of this entire area. When it comes to programming this revitalization long-term, one of the big things is to figure out how we're going to grow it over time. And our recommendation within this plan is going to be adjacent phases. So looking at the metrics of what development is happening outside of its current area, the success of development within your current area, and then growing adjacent to the existing one. So again, Southside's a large area. 8 different neighborhoods. It's a third of the city, but we would like to essentially grow off of the revitalization success in your current area and then expand out. So this phase 2 here, again, it's a draft. This would be really long-term, but new phases we would hope to be amended into the adopted plan over time when it's appropriate. In this area, it's around the Cobb Park neighborhoods where it's centered, contains about 841 parcels. When it comes to the incentives, the structure of them, we hope to be around the same, but really increase the possible totals. On the handout that I gave you on its backside, it will kind of detail that for you. We're looking at essentially, when it comes to the new construction and major rehab, the reimbursement would be about 20% of the project's total cost. Sometimes there's a maximum award of what it would cap out at. Previously, that was $27,000. One thing we'd like to still conclude is the home repair micro grant, but again, increase that total. It was $5,000 currently, and while that's been successful, we'd really like to see that expand, especially since we're going into a larger area as well. Other types of incentives that the city would like to offer, or at least recommend through this plan, would be guaranteed buybacks, and also trying to address like the loan to value ratio for the cost of construction versus the appraised value, and seeing if there's a way we can cover that gap funding maybe for a certain number of homes each year. Here's a picture of 1011 Oscar Cross. This is the first new home completed in this area utilizing our existing incentive programming. When it comes to kind of the big moving parts that are not plan specific, there will be an entire engagement and education priority of our department to really make sure that these materials are accessible and understandable as possible in terms of getting it to the general public. There's also going to be quarterly newsletters updating the public, going directly to them. There's going to be door-to-door campaigns. And then also, we're planning to do a neighborhood party kickoff event. It's not all going to be work at the end of the day. It's something to really show that the city's committed in this area, and we're going to be committing resources over time. Other elements such as neighborhood signage denoting the program area. We have a mock-up of what that could look like with some pole banners, displaying the program logo and everything. Also, signs be placed within city surplus property denoting how people can access the program, what number to call, how to get involved. Also, there would be recommendations for potential historic district or the nomination of individual properties to the National Register of Historic Places. And that could be utilized through our current Historic Commission, the HARC, as well as members from our planning department and also community members to try and work on that project together. And again, also expanding the incentives again, just the general amounts, but also working with developers to try and expand the menu completely as well. It's kind of the big picture stuff of the elements of the plan, but one of the primary reasons we're here tonight to get your feedback on is also how URCDA can be involved. Previously, in 2019, as you all might know, the Planning Commission and URCDA were combined together. One of the main reasonings of this was the closing of the Fountain Avenue plan and the decrease of new development within that area, and also the pause of incentives. From this, hopefully we can account with our Southside Housing Plan to see an increase in development, especially among vacant property. Through our community engagement process, the main two things we've heard regarding housing are people want to see improvements to their existing homes, and they want to see the redevelopment and repurposing of the vacant lots in Southside. And so, we would like to utilize URCDA more directly to help with this transition of property to better support the revitalization programming, such as our surplus property program and the actual incentives themselves. The process we see for this would be done through ordinance, one repealing the 2019 ordinance that we have listed here, 2019-12-8608, which combined the two entities, and then reestablish URCDA outside as its own separate entity. This would involve URCDA having its own separate meeting date and time from the Planning Commission. Now, I said a whole lot pretty quickly, but it's at this point that we'd like to really talk with you all and get your initial feedback. Again, this is just the big picture of the plan. We're going to take your feedback and reincorporate it out before we would meet again. It's the close of my presentation. I'd like to have more of a conversation now.
So you want us just to give you some ideas? Or do we get to go and think about it, or you want it all tonight, or?
You don't have to give it all tonight. No, not at all. Whatever comes up right now, we'll be glad to take.
We will be
but you know where we work.
visiting this again,
Yes.
but certainly tonight would be good. I'll start off. This has prompted a number of questions. Of the 404 vacant lots, how many of those does the city control?
We don't have that exact number for our new area, but when it comes to our original program area, we have maybe about 3 left currently within surplus property.
In the total of the 400, we control a little less than a third.
Okay. I just was thinking from an inventory standpoint compared back to the Fountain Avenue in the lower town, we controlled quite a bit of inventory, and
We did,
it may help make it happen.
we're working toward that. We have purchased some things, but we're trying to gain that inventory. It's just slow.
Sure. Oh, I understand
It's
that.
just slow.
So you said did you say on the
No,
first
go ahead.
part that we only control 3?
To date, that's all that's left. You know, they when they first started the program probably 3 years ago, I would dare say that they had close to 30.
Mhm.
And so some developers have proposed and they just haven't brought the product, they have to build on it within a certain period of time. And some of them, that time constraints beginning to get close and tight on. But most of them have 2 years to develop once it's transferred to them.
I would
And we
say,
have 7 that I can think of right off the top of my head that will probably break ground this spring.
they probably were waiting to see what the incentive plan would be.
Right.
So you had 30 parcels, the developer says, I'll take that and I'll develop within 2 years. And
But
others,
not all of those have gone to true developers. 3 have gone to community garden. There have been things like that that have come along, they've been utilized for. So they've not all been, is that making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Compared to the other programs, I recall 8 or 9 years ago when URCDA looked at that area for a possible next, there weren't that many city things that could be done as far as things like curbs and gutters and sidewalks.
Right, a lot of that has been done.
Okay. Because that is a major improvement that, hey, we can do this type thing.
I believe last fiscal year, there was 400,000 spent in infrastructure on the south side. Some of that has been happening all along, it's just not been,
Good.
we haven't talked about it very much. But I was having that conversation with Commissioner Henderson earlier last week, and he said, the hard part is people really don't care about that because they can't see it. They wanna experience things that they can see, which is true, until you walk on it, or until you're having to utilize it, and then that's when you're thankful that you have it, but
Yes.
I understood his point.
Yes. And then the other note I had made, are there other city mitigants such as code enforcement or crime or things like that that can be addressed to help the psychology of this group?
Yes, I believe a neighborhood watch is starting in the area. I also believe that we're working, I know we are, but I don't have an answer to where it's gonna go yet, but we're working with the police force, to see if there's a place that they could take their breaks, just to increase that presence and not be such a scary presence, to let people know that they're a partnership in the community. That's one of the reasons that we're on May the 31st looking to have a community event. We're looking to go meet with all the pastors and host them for a luncheon, just to talk through what we would like to see happen in the neighborhood and how we can partner. There are code enforcement, absolutely. They've been doing a lot of education. They're having a community meeting actually out by the mall tonight. They had one at WC Young 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, just about 2 weeks ago,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So definitely a partner there, but they're gonna work with us in doing several educational opportunities. There's also, I don't know if you're familiar with Angie Wilkie. Angie does a program called Project Hope, I believe. And it helps people get their finances in order so they can be in a position to purchase a home. For like first-time home buyers, a lot of people don't understand what it takes to become credit-worthy to be able to do that. She has agreed to have quarterly meetings in the neighborhoods to help us work toward getting homeowners educated and ready.
so should I mention the idea I mentioned to you a couple of weeks ago about you've got a lot of property where people said, look, for $300 I'll buy the property next to me so I'll mow it, or I'll put a garden there. And I was guilty of this when I was a commissioner, and we said, well, yeah, let's do that, because it'll get it off our rolls. So now you would like to have it back. So my idea was so Mr. Benberry owns this property right here. That's his property here. He bought this for $300 10 years ago. And he would like to fix his house up, but he doesn't have any money. So the city could say, Mr. Benberry, you spent $300 for that property 10 years ago. We're going to give you, pick a number, $10,000. We'll give it to you, but the $10,000, you have to spend it on fixing up your house next door, and then you're going to deed this piece of property to the city, and you turn around and give it to somebody else. And, I'm sorry, I was picked on Trev here next to me.
I like
And
it.
this, this would be a way to, I mean, we gave away those properties. I feel really bad about it. I was an idiot to not even thought about this 10 years ago. So I'm trying a way to get money to somebody with the idea that we're gonna give you some real profit on your $300 investment or whatever it was, and it may not even been that much. I think I proved one for $5. If you take that money and spend on your house.
There are ways.
Just an idea.
There are ways that we can work through that. There's a little tricky thing called fair market value that comes into play. But we have purchased things from people in the past, and typically what they do is get the reappraisals and average it
Sure.
out. But there are ways.
Yeah,
that
I'm
we
just
can
giving
work
you
through- I know,
just
but
general
there are
idea.
ways, I don't want everybody calling tomorrow saying.
No,
"We're gonna
no,
give you
and I'm just-
$10,000 for my $300 property.
No, I just was, there's an example, just
Yes,
making up
but-
numbers.
But my point is, there are ways that we can work through some of that, yes. And we've had lots of people who, over the last 4 years, that have purchased property on the south side as speculative and have just sat on it. And I think that probably when we expand the incentives, we'll hopefully see some of that come to fruition.
Maybe.
So speaking in line with what he's talking about density, what's the vision for density? Are we going to limit people on these lots to have density? Or are we going to, in many cases, people want 3 lots and remove the lot lines to build a bigger home? So what is it? I'm eager to hear your thoughts.
They're looking for density. At the end of the day, the commission is looking for density because there is a housing crisis. We all know that. KHC has given those numbers, and they're looking for density. I'm not gonna say that they would not encourage abolishing lot lines, because some of the lot lines over there, some of the lots are very small. They would be very difficult to build on. So I feel sure we may be back to you with some of that. But for the most part, they are looking for density.
And the new house plans mentioned would cater to the existing lot size, which are smaller, because we do have house plans that are available through our department, through surplus property, but simply they won't fit on a south side lot for the most part.
One of the things that we hear a lot, just kind of out in the community, is that people are looking for smaller homes to downsize. You know, they may be aging, and those baby boomers are getting to a place where they don't want a lot to take care of. They just want a home that they can have a 1-bedroom, 1 bath. We're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of people who are looking for starter homes as well. So I think that they have a very difficult time finding them. When people are in them, they don't want to turn them loose.
I've heard that as well, and couple of that on the south side particularly, there's not a lot of, it's like a food desert, gas desert, it's nothing there. Once they get there, it's like you have to drive so far to get fuel. If you don't have it, you may be out of it by the time you get it.
I'm gonna pitch it over to Josh for a minute and let him talk about his favorite thing, corner store ordinance, which you will see in the plan as well. But talk about that for a few minutes.
Sure, thank you. So one of the big things in the planning world today from coast to coast is corner stores, bringing those back to life, since they was the heartbeat of the neighborhood at one time, if you will. The last rendition of the APA newsletter actually pointed out Louisville as a example of what's going on coast to coast, where they mapped all their corner stores and are in the process of bringing them back to life via ordinance. Even though they may be in a residential zone, there's performance standards that can be adopted via ordinance where a corner store could go back into operation for either retail, maybe restaurant, maybe an office, maybe a daycare, whatever the case may be. But that is so that the neighborhood, exactly what you say, Mr. Benberry, doesn't have to go 8 blocks, 14 blocks to a store. They can walk 2 or 3 blocks and get what they need. Of course, it's going to be your daily staples, your bread, your eggs, your milk, whatever the case may be, but it's what you need to get through the week. So we do have a corner store ordinance drafted that my dearest hope is to come before you all at some point. That will most likely be whenever we get recommendations from Gary Mitchell, who did our comprehensive plan. What he's working on right now is bringing recommendations to both the city and county planning departments as to how we can bring our zoning ordinances in line with the new comprehensive plan. And we'll probably get that, hopefully next month. And then after that, we'll take a look at it, maybe prioritize what we get, and then bring a few text amendments at a time to this body. And I certainly hope that corner stores is one of those.
The second thing, we talked, I just saw a slide, I think, transitioning back to URCDA having it on board. I'm curious to what the thinking is of that, and the reason why I say that. I remember one time half of the URCDA board was this board, and it just kind of shared, then we merged, so now we're going back to theoretically unmerging. I don't understand, or I'd like to understand.
You want to speak to it?
I can. So, when I was approached with the question of separating the URCDA board with a separate board, why? And the answer was, there's a lot more work coming for the URCDA board. And at this moment, you have an overlap of these two boards, and that was caused back in 2019, when there wasn't as much work, so it made sense. But with what's coming, it looks like it would be better to have one separate board over here that's solely focused on URCDA. You all be solely focused on Planning Commission. You are correct that in the past, there has been overlap between the two, and that, of course, is up to the appointments by the mayor and the commission. So the short answer is a lot more work coming.
So other than more meetings, that's what we're actually looking at, just having more meetings.
Well, so that would really be dependent upon how the board is populated. So it is possible that you would have 5 brand-new members of the URCDA board who do not sit on this commission. And so in that case, you would not have more meetings.
Right.
You might have shorter meetings. There's some appeal to that. But that's at least what's in the works. I couldn't speak as to exactly who gets appointed to what.
Yeah. I mean, the value of having one is like we were talking earlier. Mr. Wayne, myself, and others have been a part of both and have pretty good history of how things have matriculated through since 2008 or so. Then if you had that 5 new person, you're almost kind of, now you don't have that. The
I think
historical
the mayor and
value.
the commission will have to have a good discussion and thought process in regard to corporate history, corporate memory, and possibly pulling 1 or 2. But that's beyond my pay grade.
I got you. Thank you.
Good questions. Commissioner Greaves, you got any questions?
Sure I do, absolutely. So, I'm just gonna ask an obvious question, but why are we separating, why can't we do the south side as a whole?
Why can't we do
Why
the
can't
south
we
side
just
as a whole?
Cause I kinda got a hole I wanna punch.
You hunt, correct?
Huh?
You hunt? You ever shot a shotgun?
I understand, yeah.
You know where I'm headed.
I know
It's the
I know what
scatter
you're-
and trying to make,
Okay,
it's trying to avoid the scatter.
okay. So my thought process on it is so you're stopping at Caldwell.
For the first phase.
Well, but you're stopping at Caldwell. I mean,
Gotta stop somewhere.
you gotta stop.
That's true.
You gotta stop somewhere, but you could just go up a few more blocks and you could catch Cobb Park.
And that is in phase 2.
That's in phase 2. That might be 10 years down the road.
It could be.
It could be 10. My point is that so you did your Fountain Avenue and your Lower Town. So you had your incentives. So if you wanted to be in Lower Town or Fountain Avenue, your incentives hit you. You might want to be in the south side, but your place isn't in your little group here, so your buddy over here is getting his $27,000 for his house over here, and I'm across the street. And I guess that's kind of where I'm it's, that's what I'm kind of looking at, is are you gonna put is it gonna put a chokehold on what could be going on in the other blocks?
Or is there an amendment for cherry picking, so to speak, in the second phase, if need be?
I mean, that's what I'm kind of getting at, is that you're leaving a lot of meat on that bone that people would do, so, but they might be like, well, we're not gonna do this. It's just gonna be property just sitting there.
One of the interesting things that, and you can speak to this, Chairman Williams, just by what you do from 9 to 5, but one of the interesting feedbacks that we've had from bankers is the concern that if we were to spread it out so far, that the development will not take off, that they want to be where they can see other development taking place. They want to be within the eyesight or line sight of what's changing the neighborhood. The other thought process was they're concerned about the loan to value ratio. They're very concerned about, right now, if they had to get comps in that area, it would be very difficult to do. And if you stay within that area without creating density, it would take much longer and be very difficult to do. One of the things that we've talked about with gap funding, because it is such a defined area and such a smaller area, is that we will be able to offer incentives to close that gap. Because our guess is when the first people come in and they assume the risk, and that's exactly what they'll be doing, but hypothetically, let's just say that Commissioner Rhodes over here wants to build a house, and he's gonna build a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, but he's gonna need $250,000 out of it. Coming out of the gate, it may only appraise at 200. So how are we gonna close that gap for a first-time home buyer? Because if it doesn't appraise out, they're not gonna be able to borrow the money, and most people are, in this day and time, are looking to borrow the money. So one of the things that we're proposing is to close that gap with that $50,000 as a forgivable loan. We'll come in, and if that buyer is creditworthy, we'll come in, take a second mortgage, work in partnership with the lending institution, and for every year that they're in the house, a percentage of it will be forgiven. If they sell it in 5 years, then they may have to pay half of it back, hypothetically, is the way it would work. But that would be to create the density in that smaller footprint.
Makes sense.
But you see what I'm saying, though.
I hear what you're saying.
I think you're exactly right. I think the key is when somebody looks at it and they say other new houses, other rehabs, and so they get real comfortable. And if it's spread out, it's a
It
shotgun.
dilutes it. It's
Yeah.
scattershot.
And I'm just an old car dealer, and I know that. I'm not a developer.
I know that car dealer.
Yeah.
Good question, though, and I appreciate that.
So part of the process, are the banks looking at, we talked about comps, going farther for the comps, like, than the normal?
Well, it's kind of like Fountain Avenue, really, isn't it?
It's exactly what happened in
And
Fountain
that
Avenue.
was kind of the playbook.
In the very beginning, they, to get anybody even enticed over
Jefferson,
there,
maybe.
they had to do the buybacks. And on average, lost $65,000 per property on each in the very beginning. There were 4 they did that they lost that. But it took a minute for it to take off.
And of course, it was launched in the teeth of the worst recession since the Great Depression. But other than that, I mean, timing didn't help.
Any other questions? Have I answered everybody's question?
Okay, I'll ask one. We even talked about or Palmer said there could be a possible agreement, and I'm using your term possible. Is that possible? Is that like a 10% possible or a 90% possible or some, or you want to talk about that on maybe the next time we meet on whatever the next meeting is?
Which element in particular?
You said there was a possible
yes.
Greenway Trail through,
Greenway.
I would say that because
Greenway.
the previous meeting about 2 weeks ago was canceled because of the rain, so we haven't been able to fully discuss the final draft of that plan with the public. But no, that would be happening, but a bit for context for that, the city has had a technical assistance grant with the National Park Service to design an expansion of the Greenway Trail. And taking this trail from where it currently ends in downtown Paducah by the convention center and taking it all the way through the south side. We have a couple different options of where that actual path is going to lead. Might be on a couple different streets. But again, this is just the design portion. We'll be taking that out to the public soon. Unfortunately, the previous public meeting was canceled because of the weather. But a new date will be set with that. Then afterwards, that is to be proposed to the City Commission for adoption.
so again, is
I'd
this like,
say 85.
okay, great, thanks.
You know,
I still like to, I
it
mean,
might take a left and take a right.
I'd say 85.
okay.
So,
We're taking
and
on-
then
Carol, I'm
then you
making a
have
note.
to build it, right? So,
And that's, you know,
it's
I
a
mean-
long-term project.
Because, you know, you can get excited about 85 and 5% you say, well, maybe it's not going to happen. Okay.
I know I said a lot tonight, but this is a very technical document with many sections and chapters. It will go more in depth in terms of the zoning, more high levels than what we talked about tonight in terms of what the actual program area is going to look like. Again, it's a big document, and I will come before you all soon. One of the other bigger steps that needs to be taken before this plan is fully adopted at the very end of the day is going to be a public hearing. So we're going to promote this document in advance to every address within the program area. So everybody's going to get the notification that a public hearing is going to be held, and they can actually engage with that document in advance, you know, so they can get their questions ready. Because we want this to be as transparent and clear and understandable as possible. But hopefully we've kind of got your mind and gears turning when it comes to the plan as of tonight. But this won't be the first time that it comes before you all, so.
That public
target-
hearing would probably be through this commission and probably in May,
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
Yeah, as the wheels turn. So, and after it's finished with you all, then it has to, of course, go to city commission as well.
There is some question about the timing on the public hearing. June 2nd, it will be your normal meeting date after the May 5th date. But one of the things that the attorney has brought up is that we want to make sure we have a public hearing before it's given to you all to adopt, because if we need to make adjustments based on what we hear, that we want time to do that. And June the 2nd would typically be the time that we would bring it to you to adopt.
Oh, okay.
So there may be some flux, and we may have to have a special call meeting somewhere in there.
That's how we are here to support.
I just wanted to make that.
I understand. It's all tentative until it's
It is.
not.
It is.
Well, if that's all, thank you all very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to remind everybody very quickly
Yes.
of the training on the 24th of April in Calvert City. Palmer and I will both be presenting that day. We got roped into that, so we're going to be talking about neighborhood revitalization, past, present, and future. So if you haven't signed up yet, and you can, please let Nancy know so that she can get you signed up. As of right now, last I heard, there was at least 65 people going from all over West Kentucky, and it's gotten so big they've moved it out of Calvert City City Hall into their civic center. So there's going to be a lot of folks there. So just a reminder, please get with Nancy if you'd like to go.
Excellent. Any other questions, comments?
I'm good.
Mr. Denton, once again, welcome. Thank you
Thank
for
you,
being
sir.
here. Well, with nothing else, our next meeting will be May the 1st. No, I'm sorry, May the 5th. And at 6:13, we stand adjourned.
All right.